So the orchestrated campaign to absolutely ruin Tucker Carlson continues. It wasn't enough to fire their number one star. In my opinion, Fox News seems determined to absolutely ruin him, to ruin his reputation, to make him unemployable, and ideally, in their view, to make his audience turn on him so that they won't follow him wherever he goes next. Fox News is suffering what could fairly be called a bloodbath at 8 o'clock, and now their entire prime time is suffering as a result of it, as viewers' anger escalates to exponential levels in the wake of this unfair treatment of their number one star. Okay, right now, the latest ratings we have are from Monday, because the ratings come out the next day, so we've gotten the Tuesday afternoon results. We'll get Tuesday nights today at 4:30. So I have Mondays. On Monday night, the 7 p.m., hosted by Jesse Waters, in the key advertising demo of 25 to 54, which is the number they care about, beat the 8 p.m., the 9 p.m., the 10 p.m., and even Greg Gutfeld at 11. He beat them all. Why is that? Because people are still in love with Jesse? I like Jesse. This is not a hit on Jesse. But no, that's not what's happening. Jesse's getting kind of the number he was getting, a little lower. He's suffering a bit too. But it's off a cliff at 8 p.m. They have left in droves, and then they don't recover. They are not coming back for Hannity. They're not coming back for Ingram. They're not coming back for Gutfeld. It is a devastating event from 8 p.m. forward now on Fox News. They lost in both the demo and the overall to MSNBC. The only reason they're not losing every night to CNN is because they have two viewers. So, I mean, it's like Brian Stelter still tunes in, and I think Don Lemon might be the other one, hate watching. That's the only reason. So Fox News is truly in an existential crisis right now. And their solution to their massive error of firing their number one star is to try to ruin him. Why are they doing this? I was having a private conversation with a frequent guest of this show who's friends with Tucker, as am I, today. And I said it's two reasons. Number one, omerta. You don't leave the cult. You don't leave voluntarily like I did with a hug, goodbye, on supposedly good terms. And you certainly don't leave when they've decided to fire you on good terms. Hell no. Fire and destroy. That's how it goes. Why? Because if they fire the number one star, he could hurt them. He still has a very massive audience. So he has to be destroyed, you see. Otherwise, somebody could employ him. His audience is mad. We have to make the audience see. We fired Bill O'Reilly because he had paid $69 million in sexual harassment settlements. You have to understand that, audience. You have to forgive us. And the audience did. The audience isn't a bunch of unreasonable people. They said, oh, I miss Bill, but okay, I'll give him another chance. And Tucker took off in the 8 o'clock because people were open-minded. They're not a bunch of assholes at home like, I don't get my favorite, I don't watch. They were never given an explanation for Tucker. The rug was pulled under him, out from under the audience with no explanation. And so now the destroy mission has to happen so that you, the audience members, realize you just were too stupid to understand how evil Tucker was. You see? That's what I believe is clearly happening here. And the latest offering is, once again, via the New York Times, the newfound favorite publication, apparently, of Fox News. They've gone to the same reporters who leaked the earlier stuff about his allegedly horrifying text messages and the horrifying outtakes. I'm referring to them as outtakes, but really what they are is the anchor sitting on the set during the commercial break making small talk with either the guest or with the staff and the producers, whoever. There's only one way to have that. You could be sitting there on the satellite feed, if you have access, if you're at a competing news channel, and watching every second of Tucker, looking for him to say something and hold on to all the tapes and then release it after he got fired to make him look bad. That's not what happened. Or you could be somebody internally who's got a grudge against him, who now, on direction of the bosses, and it's part of the ruined Tucker plan, is going back, calling over all those tapes, looking for any moment that makes him look bad. So the New York Times earlier reports he had a moment where he called a woman yummy. Then he later said he was kidding in the same segment, not reported by the New York Times, the I'm kidding part. They reported that. Somehow they got their hands on the tapes, the magical tapes. Secondly, they had him making a reference to his post-menopausal audience. Well then, a couple days after that, Media Matters for America, this far-left group, it was a Hillary Clinton-backed entity at one point, David Brock, just craziness, what they've printed over there. They got a hold of the videos. We showed them to you yesterday. Oh, it's amazing. How the New York Times and Media Matters have exactly the same sourcing. Who could it be? Whomever could it be? Today, we get yet another installment. Media Matters dropped another video yesterday, which we showed you on our program. And now, today we have another Media Matters release, and we have a new New York Times release. This is absurd. Okay, this is absurd. This is a destruction campaign, and the media is going along with it without one thought for how they're participating in what is an internal work dispute, allowing themselves to be used as tools of Irina Briganti, who runs the Fox evil communications department, and her bosses, who are clearly allowing all of this. The New York Times. Carlson's text that alarmed Fox leaders, it's not how white men fight. The discovery of the text message contributed to a chain of events. Notice the ambiguity. They can't say this is what caused it, because at some point, these people could find themselves under oath in a lawsuit brought by Tucker. And they're clearly not prepared to say that this is actually what did it, because it obviously didn't. But it contributed to a chain of events that ultimately led to Carlson's firing. The New York Times goes on. A text message sent by Tucker Carlson that set off a panic at the highest levels of Fox on the eve of its billion-dollar defamation trial showed its most popular host sharing his private, inflammatory views about violence and race. The discovery of the message contributed to a chain of events that ultimately led to his firing. In the message sent to one of his producers in the hours after violent Trump supporters stormed the Capitol on Jan 6, Mr. Carlson described how he had recently watched a video of a group of men, Trump supporters, he said, violently attacking, quote, an Antifa kid. It was 3 against 1, at least, he wrote. And then he expressed a sense of dismay that the attackers, like him, were white. Quote, jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously, he wrote. Quote, it's not how white men fight, he said. But he said he found himself for a moment wanting the group to kill the person he had described as the Antifa kid. Now, I will get into the full text that is printed here. Let me start with this. The Times acknowledges we are not supposed to be seeing this text. Why? Because it was produced by Tucker and or his producer in the context of the Dominion lawsuit, which is good. They complied with their discovery obligations. He didn't hide it. They turned it over. 2, it would be the general counsel of the company asking him for responsive documents. I guarantee you there would have been an assurance to Tucker that this would stay private, that his private correspondence would stay private, and that this would not be relevant to the Dominion litigation. In my view, I don't know that this should have been produced. I don't see how this is relevant to the Dominion litigation. It's one thing to produce it and have it come up in a deposition where basically they had cast a wide net, but there was no way this was going to be allowed in against Tucker at trial on a cross-examination. What does this have to do with lies about Dominion? He's talking about a beatdown he saw on the street a couple weeks earlier. So it was kept out. It wound up in a Dominion filing. Of course, they wanted to embarrass Fox and Tucker. And Fox managed to get it blacked out of Dominion's filing from the public eye for all the reasons I just stated. Well, miraculously now, someone has come up with it and leaked it to the New York Times. Whomever could it be? Who would have had the motive to keep it protected before, but now out it? Dominion? Oh, they have their $800 million. Why would they now be leaking texts about Tucker Carlson? Why would they do anything to risk their $800 million? Could it be perhaps Fox, which has been, in my view, again, leaking to the New York Times day by day with little bits and pieces that would hurt Tucker? And here we go again with this long text. So it's been released from a redacted court filing that we are not supposed to see. The New York Times right now, I believe, is one of 3 news organizations. They are suing in this courtroom to get the redacted portions of these briefs unredacted. There's a process in place for the news media that's curious about what's behind these blackouts to find out. Someone has jumped the gun. Someone in possession of the Tucker texts has jumped the gun and flouted the court order. Whomever could it be? Such a mystery. So Tucker's text. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they would hit him hard or kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Then somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. The Antifa creep is a human being. Much as I despise what he says and does, much as I'm sure I'd hate him personally if I knew him, I shouldn't gloat over his suffering. I should be bothered by it. I should remember that somewhere, somebody probably loves this kid and would be crushed if he was killed. If I don't care about those things, if I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is? First of all, I think it's extraordinary that Tucker is being this introspective in a casual text exchange with a producer on his show. That's who he is. He's constantly talking like this and thinking about himself in these ways and challenging himself when he falls down emotionally or mentally or intellectually to do better. You've seen it a million times and so have I. So they pluck this one phrase out where he says, it's not how white men fight, to try to make him look like a demon. Now, I don't know what Tucker meant by that. I will say, for whatever it's worth, that to me it appears like he is describing a group jumping a kid and then they start pounding the living shit out of him. It sounds like gang violence to me. I think he's observing what looks very much like gang violence. And if you look at the stats on gangs in America and in New York City in particular, where Fox is headquartered, literally it's 99% non-white. I looked it up just to see. Juvenile Justice Information says New York City gangs are 99% people of color. The National Youth Gang Survey, 81% people of color in gangs in America, right? Only 11% white on a national basis. So if Tucker's responding to what looks like gang violence, it is not accurate. It is not inaccurate to say it's not typically a group of white people doing that. Was it the most artful sentence? No, it wasn't. But as the Times acknowledges, it was a private communication never meant to see the light of day. I'm sure had he articulated it on his show, it would have been said a little differently. Look, you did the tough thing during COVID. You paid your people and you pulled your business through the pandemic. Now, doing that tough thing could qualify you for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. Government funds are available to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. It's not a loan, and you don't have to pay it back. It's like an allotment of money that's already there, sitting there. The program is complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax experts at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and then share a percentage of the cash they get you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, including those who took PPP loans, even if you had increases in sales. You did the tough thing for your employees during COVID. Let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org. 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 Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.